Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to start by asking all of you a question. Have you thought about money at all today? The answer is likely yes. We all think about money all the time, and actually, this is because we are in a society that is consumed by money. We make economic decisions constantly, and most of which we actually don't spend much time thinking over at all. So the classical economic theory tells us that we make rational decisions based off of profit. I'm here to tell you that that statement is actually wrong. So there's an emerging field called behavioral economics. And behavioral economics actually studies the human psychology and sees how this is going to impact our economic decision making. So I think we're all very familiar with optical illusions. And I know that no matter how long I look at this image, I still see the top arrow as longer than the bottom arrow. However, when I take a measuring tape to measure both lines, I see that they are the exact same length. So our minds are not only able to trick our visions, but they're also able to trick the way we make decisions. So, let's say that you're off auction bidding, and you want to buy a set of antique plates. Now, this first set of plates are all in mint condition. Now, suppose that the second set has some antique plates in mint conditions and some that are damaged. So which would you be more likely to pay more for? What was interesting to see is that most people were willing to pay more for the first set. And this is actually a cognitive bias. So what people are going to do is they're going to look at the average condition of the plates to make their decision, when the actual rational way to think about it is to look at the actual number of plates in mint condition. So I was actually really interested by behavioral economics, and so my penchant for the studies going on really led me to want to make my own survey to see kind of how not only our cognitive biases will impact our decisions, but also to see how our backgrounds and different informations are also going to come in and impact our economic decision making. So I put in place a survey and asked it to students in my school. And I got 200 plus responses. And so I asked questions on a variety of different things, such as background information, lateness, careless spending, risk-taking, and even food preferences. And so what I got was something that looked like this. So it's an Excel spreadsheet, and really didn't make much sense looking at it like this. So I started looking a little bit more in detail at different individuals. So in orange, you can see the average response from the total data. And in green, you can see the average response from male students from high-income families. And what was really surprising about this graph showed that they were taking much more risks than the average data respondent. And so I started looking a little bit more into why this was. So suppose you have the possibility of taking a bet on a game of heads or tails, where if you get heads, you win $200, and if you get tails, you win nothing. Or you can just choose to take $100 instantly. Now suppose that you have the possibility to bet on a second game of heads or tails. This time, when you get heads, you win $100, and when you get tails, you'll lose $100. Or you can just choose not to play. So I want to divide my different answers into 4 different big categories so I can have kind of an idea of who decided what. And so I divided it into high-income females, high-income males, low and average income females, and low and average income males. And so when I was looking at the responses from the first graph, it was interesting to see that, so the responses are in orange, and it was interesting to see that the majority of the risk takers for the first bet were actually high-income males. And then when I looked at the responses from the second set of answers, from the second bet, I saw that people were taking much less risk. And this didn't actually come as a big surprise to me, because losing $100 is more painful than winning $100 is satisfactory. What really struck me is when I looked at who took risks for both bets. And they were only high-income males. And so this baffled me, and I tried to understand why. So I started analyzing why this was. So behavioral economics shows us that that individuals from high-income backgrounds are more likely to take risks simply because they can afford to. But what really was just mind-boggling to me was to see that only males were taking the risks. And so this made me look over our society as a whole. So from a very young age, girls are told to be patient, to take the safe bet, whereas boys are told to be aggressive, courageous risk takers. And this is understandable if it were 50 years ago, but thinking of today's day and age, where we are constantly embracing diversity and striving for equality, to see that the newest generation was still submitting to these biases, it shocked me. And so if there's one thing I want to leave you with today, it's that you have to understand the cognitive biases and the sociological influences that are going to lead you into making irrational decisions. Because if you understand these, you'll be able to set yourself apart from them and actually make decisions that are true to yourself. Thank you.